Hi. So it's just one video this weekend. I know I normally do about batches of 2 or 3, but I just can't be bothered. Plus, another reason, this is really rambly, but never mind. And you realise why it is rambly. So last night I thought I'll close my eyes for 2 minutes. 2 hours later, my eyes opened again. So it meant last night when I tried to sleep, could I sleep? Could I heck? I think I had about 1.5 hours sleep, and I was meeting my friend today for a day in Manchester. So I am extremely spacey right now. Plus, I've not picked up any comics this week and a weekend. What was all that about? And I've got the sniffles as well. Hay fever. Way. Um, so I've not been to my comic shop, not picked up my comics, not picked up any extra graphic novels. I have got one coming tomorrow, which is the volume 1 of the Hellboy Omnibus. They call it an omnibus, but it's just like an oversized trade paperback. So I might do a look at that because I did get Hellboy when it first came out, in comic form, and then I got it digitally, but I've not had in a physical collected edition. So I might do a look at that if you'd like me to. And it'd be nice revisiting that story because I've not read Hellboy in a long time now. But this is by the by. What I'm focusing on today, I'm going to give an overview and a review of The Beauty Book 1, because as you're most likely aware, if you've seen the adverts for Disney Plus, or if you're in the States, Hulu, The Beauty has now been made into a TV series by Fox TV, I think, or Hulu, one of them. And it's meant to deviate quite a bit from the book. I've not watched the series. I've no interest in watching the series. I'm not one of those people who's got to watch a film or a series that's based on a comic. I'm here for comics. I could take a leave TV. I could take a leave cinema. Nowadays, at this stage in my life, it just doesn't hold the same appeal. I'd rather lose myself in a comic book. But The Beauty was originally published by Image Comics. I think it ran for about 30 issues. I think I could be wrong there, so don't quote me on that. And then that finished. But then there was a new company formed called Ignition Press, and one of the people who's part of like the trustees or the group of people who oversee Ignition Press is the writer Jeremy Horn, who was the writer on The Beauty for Image Comics. And so, obviously, because he owns the rights to that series, he's now started doing a new version of The Beauty as a monthly comic through Ignition Press. But what they've done as well, they've released the original series of The Beauty in these not oversized books, but these not insignificant volumes. This collects 11 issues, and they're going to do it a series of 3. It's going to be 3 books. So I'll read the back of it here. So that's the cover. That's the back. It's $19.99. It's by Jeremy Horn and Jason Hurley. Jeremy Horn does the first 6 issues of the art as well, and he writes the story of Jeremy. So Jeremy Horn writes the story of Jason A. Hurley. I do like that cover. Excuse me, like I said, I'm really saucy today. So it says the iconic, innovative comic book series, The Beauty, returns to stores with a brand new edition to coincide with the television adaptation from producer Ryan Murphy and FX. It's another reason why I don't know if I'm going to watch the TV series, because I'm not a big fan of Ryan Murphy stuff. In a culture increasingly obsessed with physical beauty, what if you could be guaranteed a shortcut to becoming beautiful? A sexually transmitted disease has started transforming people who catch it, changing their facial features and body types to something more in line with society's perceived ideal. Those inflicted shed fat, regrow hair, and get more defined cheekbones overnight. The only catch, you will have a slight, persistent fever. But who cares how you feel when you look so good? Folks who pursued this alleged perfection are in for a rude awakening. After an indeterminate time with the disease, it has deadly consequences. Looking good on the outside comes at the cost of your insides. That's big. That just made me think, oh, cringe. As that fever finally burns you from the inside out, for detectives Vaughan and Foster, investigating the first mysterious deaths of beauty victims, leads them into a dark world they never expected, full of corrupt politicians, murderous federal agents, and secret society of crooks and killers. relive the first spellbinding story arc of the Beauty, as well as a selection of stories that expands the world. The first of 3 all-new editions collecting the entire original series. This volume includes the first 11 issues, co-written by series creator Jeremy Horn and Jason A. Hurley, with art by Horn, Mike Huddleston, Brett Weedale, and Stephen Green. So I'll just show you the art. So got to show you one with no nudity, because it is YouTube. So that's Jeremy Horn's artwork. That's a bit more of his artwork. So he did the first 6 issues. And then you have Mike Huddleston on chapter 7. And then on 8 to 10, you got Brett Weedale. And then on the final chapter, chapter 11, you have Stephen Green. I think he's my favourite one, to be honest. I really do like his style. Oh, it's the case, isn't it? So it's the one with the least pages that you end up liking. So the first 6 issues focuses on, like I said here, the detectives Vaughn and Foster. And the story beats out initially at the beginning. It opens up on a subway where somebody with a beauty basically combusts from the inside out on this subway. And it turns out there's more and more cases of this happening across the world globally. One of the detectives, Vaughn, she's infected with the beauty. So she's super glamorous. And then something happens to the other detective. I don't want to give too much because it's nice to discover things for yourself. And so they investigate why suddenly all these people who are infected with the beauty are now combusting after a certain amount of time. And there's another faction of people who are anti the beauty, who are trying to find a cure and get rid of the beauty, so just so that normality can come back into place again within the world, so people aren't looking to get this sexually transmitted disease that gives them like these like godlike looks. And then there's the shadowy organizations like Control Medicines, etc. So there's that faction as well. There's politicians, and there's certain factions who want to keep the beauty going and need to increase the beauty to get more people infected for their own personal gain. There's a person who works with the 2 detectives who initially seems to be working against them, and then she has a change of heart. And a lot of things happen in the meantime. There's this other guy who is employed by one of the people who a lot of them answer to, who's basically, he's just in there for whatever he can get financially and trying to basically exploit anybody with the beauty. Let me just find it. Yeah, this guy here, he's like a secret assassin used by one of the conglomerates, and his story gets revealed. But what I'd found frustrating, the pacing's really unusual. It jumps in scenes, and it doesn't always make it clear that it's jumping in scene or if it's going forward in time or backward in time. So that's going to get a bit of downtick for me, because you've got to like flick backwards and forwards just to work it out for yourself. Some of the dialogue, not clunky per se, but it could flow better. And then, like this threat that happens, and this mystery, this like big like turning point in the plot device by issue 5 and issue 6, which concludes the first story arc. It feels like it pitters out, and how part of the story is wrapped up is a bit of a damp squib. I expected more. It could have gone on for about another 1 or 2 issues. and it just felt fully formed. The idea, it's kind of like they went, oh yeah, that's it. So now we'll move on to another story. And so the next story is this one shot about this gang member who's this really big burly guy, and he does something within his gang to basically so he can free himself from the gang literally, and how he goes about it is very, very brutal. And so the beauty comes into play because that becomes his get out clothes, so people won't recognize him if he becomes infected with the beauty. And that segues then into the third story arc, which focuses on this hit woman who works for this guy, and it has links to this, like I said, to the second short story, and that has quite a few twisty turny bits. And then the final story brings those two story elements together and kind of concludes that storyline. But yeah, I am going to get the other two books because I'm hoping with the second book it might bring some of the earlier plot threads from issues 1 through to 6 back again, because like I said, it left it really open-ended, and it's like wibbling and wobbling in the wind, and you move on to this brand new story arc. So what initially I thought the series was going to be, I didn't expect, even though, because I didn't read the blurb to be honest, I didn't expect it to be like this series of vignettes where one story ends and then the new story carries on. So it feels like I don't mean this to be harsh, because like I said, I'm going to get the other two books, so but it feels like a Temu version of 100 Bullets, but instead of the mystery man giving somebody 100 bullets to do with whatever they want, where it's untraceable, they can, go on the biggest vengeance spree, whatever they want to do with it. These people get the beauty, and they can do what they want. Like I said, they can change their identity, so they can escape from their past. They can be their ideal self. And I wasn't expecting that with this storyline, so it left me a bit frustrated. I got really invested in the first storyline with the two detectives, and it leaves it glaringly open-ended and kind of like a what the fuck kind of ending. And it's like, why? Was it intended just to be a 6-issue series originally? Because I didn't read it when it first came out. And that's what it feels like. It feels like the rest of the stories were like, it's like they forgotten about it and tacked on these new storyline afterwards. So, like I said, I hope with Volume 2, it ties, there's a huge amount of loose threads. It ties some of these loose threads up, because there's loads of characters that were killed off or they had life-changing experiences in the first 6 issues, what were not resolved satisfactory in this first story arc. And the next story arc was interesting. The characters I actually found more enjoyable in the 3 stories that intertwined to the concluding 11th chapter. Much more interesting than the first story, because like I said, the first story just left me frustrated because it ended so abruptly and kind of like, so like I said, I hope Volume 2 elaborates on that. It covers, obviously, it uses the beauty as a metaphor for social standing, like having good looks, does it give you more privilege? Can you get ahead in life if you look better than somebody else? Can you use a change in your physical appearance to be your ideal self, like, for example, trans identity? Can it make you become the woman or the man that you feel like you've always been? And other aspects as well. Other people who get the beauty, they don't want the beauty and they don't know how to cope with suddenly being this desirable visage when before you were just Mr. Average, who people were more focused on your personality and your skill set and just how you interacted. They weren't distracted by your physical appearance. So those are interesting. Oh, I hate having a runny nose. And I don't know where to put my clicker. Oh, it's there. So it does bring up interesting topics. Maybe, I think instead of being a 3-volume series, like I said, I have no idea what the other stories will involve, but maybe it should have been 2 thick books. So you've not, and then just charge like an extra, maybe make them $24.99 each, just 2 volumes. Maybe that would elaborate more on the story and leave it less open-ended. So I like some of the art. The art is very different in each story as well. So again, that's a bit of a whiplash effect. which is unusual for an Image comic. With Marvel and DC, it happens a lot, but you don't see that a lot in a creator-owned Image comic. So that took a bit to adjust to with each new story. And like I said, because the last 5 issues were one short story, one bigger story, and one like coda story, epilogue story. Initially, I think they did it intentionally, so you didn't realize initially that all the stories, those final 3 stories, were going to all tie together. But again, it made it more of a puzzle piece than an enjoyable, easy flowing story. So yeah, I jumped to this when it came out because I was really excited to read this. It looked like my kind of thing, and I think in my head I oversold it because the covers are really dramatic, and I think I was reading what I thought would be in the story, and I didn't get what I was expecting out of the story. Is it a bad comic? Far from it. Is it a frustrating comic? Very much so. And that's the caveat what I'll give, is that it was enjoyable, but it was frustrating, and I hope with the next volume, which I think is coming out in June, I will feel less frustrated and it will make much more sense to me. And I won't be having to flick backwards and forwards to try and make sense of what's going on. Because like I said, there was a massive leap in story format and story mood and characters with the final 5 chapters of the book. So for the art, it's hard to gauge because some of the art was good, some of the art was excellent, and some of the art was just okay. So for the art, I would round it out at 6.5, nearly 7. The story, I'm going to say just scraping by with a 7. But I'm hoping if it does, fingers crossed, tie some of the loose threads up in the next volume, then if I do I might do like a retrospective marking for all 3 volumes when they get released to give my overall impression. But at the moment, as it stands as a just scraping by like a 6.9 out of 10. So would I recommend you picking it up? Yes. It's 19.99. You get 11 issues of story in here. Get back matter in as well, showing the different covers. It's an interesting take on a book. It's an interesting kind of like sci-fi thriller cop vignette series of vignette stories. They're trying to expand the world. It feels like they're trying to expand the world. That's my one criticism. It's like they're trying to expand this world, but it's not fully formed enough to do that. So yeah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 in 6.999. Let's call it 7 out of 10 for that. So yeah, I would recommend picking it up. It's an easy read. I read it in a matter of a few hours. So that's a sign that the writing's okay. Like I said, it just left me a bit frustrated. That could just be me, my own personal preference. But yeah, I'm pleased to pick it up. So yeah, give it a try, The Beauty. Like I said, I have no idea what the series is going to be like on TV because I like comics. Okay, bye.